Hi, I'm Alan, and this is UK. And I wanted to spend a little time today talking about something a little bit different. Now, when I was growing up in school, and we had to do book reports. Ooh, I hated those things, and just like I really was not really good at it. But I want to talk to you today about a book that I read a while back, and I wanted to try to kind of get everybody hearing about it. And if you haven't read it already, uh, get the book, read the book, listen to the book on audio, whatever. The book is Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. I always mispronounce his name. I don't know why. But this is a great book. Some of you probably have read it already. If you have not, please read it. I'm gonna have a link down in there that's a affiliate link to Amazon where you can buy the book, and for no additional cost, Amazon gives UK some money and helps defray our costs and stuff like that. Get more kids underground and stuff without it costing them money. But enough for the advertisement. The book is basically about saving our children from nature deficit disorder and why it's important, what happened. But briefly, what he talks about are when he starts out talking about or like how we grew up. Some of us grew up, even if we grew up in the city, we were outside a lot, whether it's playing stickball in the street or in a playground or in a backyard or anything like that. Most of us spent a fair amount of time outside. Where how we got from there to where we are now is kind of strange. Um, Getting outside became something that just didn't happen anymore. It became expensive to do. It became something that was really not um, seen as a thing to do anymore. But when we were growing up, we would go outside. We would play with all kinds of things. We built, like forts. We would ride bikes, up and down the street in the pass, and in the wood. There were woods around where I lived. Uh, some of you who are from Philly may know like Fairmount Park and the places in Fairmount Park. There's a lot of places. Carpenter's Woods was fairly close. Wissahickon was fairly close to where I lived, and we could go down there and ride our bikes and go for walks and stuff like that. But things have kind of changed. There was it's now almost criminal for kids to play outside. There was a case a while back. I'm trying to see if I don't have a date on it, but this was in PA. There were these boys that built a treehouse. They were like 8, 10, 12 years old, and they built a treehouse. Um, and they were later cited with violations of park rules, um, building without a permit. And it's like, it's a treehouse, it's a fort. Kids do these things. It's just became more difficult for kids to actually go out um, and play. A lot of areas, places that we normally would have played have no trespassing signs on it because of liability. Well, expected liability. They think of that there's um, a liability if a kid gets hurt on their property, whether it's wooded or whatever, and they're going to get sued. And it's like it doesn't always work out that way. Now, there's other things that kids can do outside. Um, Now, but the majority of it is an organized thing, like sports, um, and um, playgrounds that are places that you go to play in, that you pay to go play in. And the reason why the free stuff is not as popular in my opinion, and Dr. Louv points this out in the book, is that the companies that put together these other places that you pay to go play can't make a profit off the free stuff. So we are unaware of them. We do not see them as an option because we don't really know too much about what is going on there. Um, Part of the organized stuff, though, too, is that it's good. While it's good for developing certain aspects of childhood, children need to have a certain amount of time of free play. Free play is where they get the chance to use their own imagination, where they get to learn things by trial and error, not by being told this is what you do and this is how you do it. Um, there's a lot of trial and error in free play that um, kids don't learn in structured play. They don't learn hierarchy in their social settings. They don't know how to interact creatively with their peers or with people outside of the structure of their normal social interaction. Um, and a lot of it too is it's not just free play for social creativity. Their kids have this ability to take things that are just lying around and making something with them. Whether it's a structure like a fort, they learn how to build walls. They learn how to hammer a nail. They learn how to screw in a screw. But they learn basics of mechanical engineering type of things and how to build things, how a saw works, how things need to be supported. And you just can't put two pieces of wood together and hope they're going to stay like that. They've got to be attached in some way. There's a lot of loose parts that they pull together that with creativity and imagination, they can figure out how it's all supposed to work mechanically. And that's kind of important too. The other drawback from the free play is that there is a fear that the time is not constructive, that the kids aren't actually learning something because it's not a time where they're actually doing schoolwork or doing a structured activity. So it's not really seen as a something that's constructive for kids to do. And this is really kind of misguided and misunderstood that they do learn. They do learn from how to make things on their own, how to make decisions on their own, what works, what doesn't work. And they learn from failure and retry, and failure and retry, and failure and retry. And eventually it works. And they learn more from that than just telling them what to do, but they learn why they have to do things a certain way. And it's just a better way, in my opinion, anyway, for learning. Now, don't get me wrong, the structured stuff is important because they have to learn how to follow directions, interface in a team effort. When somebody else is in charge, they don't always get to make the choices. They sometimes have to follow direction from somebody else, and they have to figure out how to work as a team with other kids and other people in the structured realm. But with the free play, they learn more about themselves and how they naturally interact and how they can experiment with stuff. One of the other things that's come up with in some of the discussion is that we are losing touch with nature in itself. We are not we are staying inside more. We are on our devices like this more, um, and it's more urbanized, and it's we're more detached. We're more detached from. We're even more detached from things like our food. There was a time I remember growing up of having a garden in the yard where we would grow vegetables and stuff. And it wasn't so much because we had to, but it was nice. I mean, you could have fresh vegetables, whether there's beans and peas and carrots and stuff like that, that we as kids would grow and harvest and take inside and have for a meal. And it gave you um, a certain feeling of accomplishment, of ownership, but it was also more of a of being in touch with nature and how we actually use nature for our own nutrition. And it's not just like you go into the store and you pick up a couple of items and go through the checkout counter. And it's the same thing. I know a lot of people that are against eating meat, whether they're vegan or vegetarian, and part of that is the treatment of how animals are treated in the course of this industrialized food process, and we've lost touch of having a local farmer or and that the food goes to the farmer to the butcher, and the butcher then makes the food available to us, and it's not processed in through cattle, big factories where things are just so processed out, and we just don't have the touch, actually being in touch with what it is that we are eating and why it is important for us to consume um, the food and where it actually comes from. There are people that still hunt for their own food. There are people that fish, and fish eat the fish that they capture. And there's some people that raise their own animals. And there are some cooperative farms that you can take a part in, and not just for vegetables, but for the meat consumption as well, where you understand and you have a hands-on contribution to the raising of the animals for your own consumption. And so that's kind of gotten us away from it. A lot of kids nowadays don't that I've seen, that I've talked to, um, don't really understand where meat comes from, and what it actually means to eat meat. To us, it's simple, but for some of them, it's um, it's not. And also, with that loss of connection, we are not nurturing kids to be stewards of the earth and of nature, and to take care of nature for their future, for their kids' future, for their grandchildren's future. This goes on and on and on. And we are getting more and more away from um, being actual stewards and just industrializing everything like that. But so one of the things I guess what I got out of this book is that we need to make time for kids to play outside on their own, to learn more about what is outside on their own, to help them be part of nature, whether it's having a garden, raising a garden, helping to raise chickens, helping to gather berries or wild stuff like that that you can find out in nature instead of just buying it out of a vending machine, and going to the store. Um, so what I would like, I don't want to, I'm not going into a book report on this. I'm just talking about some of the things that we as adults who have kids and grandkids, to help them understand what nature actually is and how it is important and how we depend on it to keep us going. So what I want you to do is just encourage you. If you haven't read the book, get the book. You can find it, get an audio book, read it, listen to it in your spare time. It's still reading. It's still considered reading. It's audio. It's in your ears. But anyway, if you've read the book, buy a copy for a friend. Have them read the book. I just want you to help spread the word that there is something that we need to do, and that's get our kids more involved in nature. Now, I'd also like you to encourage you to like this video, to share it, to comment on it. I will answer all comments, pros, cons, to how you feel about Richard Louv and his concepts in this book. So subscribe, share, and comment, and let me know what you think. Thank you very much.